I like how you're wearing black and I'm wearing white.
All black. Black and white.
This is Good Morning Liberty.
Bow.
Well, what is up, all of our liberty-loving friends? This is another fantastic episode of Good Morning Liberty. My name is Nate Thurston, and across from me is the one, the only Mr. Charles Chuck Thompson. How's it going today, Chuck?
Living the dream.
I'm just hitting all the buttons over here. I'm just going to keep hitting them, even though this thing has some kind of cool auto-switching thing that I don't use, so it was pointless.
I like global warming yesterday.
Oh, God.
It's like 72 degrees here in Nashville. It was beautiful.
Are you being serious? You actually like that?
Oh, yeah, it was beautiful outside.
So depressing to me. Hate it.
What, for the temperature to go up?
Yeah.
Wait, you like the cold?
Yes. Yes, I like the cold.
Why don't you move north then, you Yankee?
I mean, like a hoodie and sweatpants. Whatever comfortable temperature it is for hoodie and sweatpants.
Workout shorts and a t-shirt.
Hoodie and sweatpants. That's my life.
And I'll tell you what, we had to turn the air conditioner on last night.
Well,
ended up being like 75 in the house. I'm like, God, it's hot. What do we do about this?
Yeah, I'm kind of upset about it getting warm, but whatever. To each their own, I guess. So
are you going to have a summer house?
I guess Nashville, Tennessee is a bad spot to pick.
You're going to have a summer house in what, Canada? I bet you would.
Well, yeah. I mean, once we make it the 51st state.
Yeah,
I'll do that. And by the way, I guess we'll get into
Trudeau fanboy.
A little bit of news here.
Does he run in your family too, Trudeau?
No,
Are you part of the
he's Cuban.
Castro elite?
He's Cuban. I'm Japanese.
Are we sure about that?
Very different. Which one?
The Japanese part.
Very sure about the Japanese part. Yeah,
because you slightly look Cuban.
I don't think so. I don't think I look Cuban. Okay, we've got a few things to talk about. I guess a little update on the tariff conversation. We've got update on potentially getting rid of the Department of Education. Then we've got this USAID conversation that we'll try to have, and just the general taking over of the U.S. government by Elon Musk, which I'll be 100% honest with you, and I'm not supposed to say this as a libertarian. It's sort of what I voted for. Like, I'm actually getting more than what I voted for right now, to tell you the truth. And so people might disagree with that. But the slash and burn style at X, combined with the efficiency and innovation of SpaceX at the same time, is what I would like to see the U.S. government go down. Now, okay, it might be a dictatorship or fascism or whatever, but hey, those are just words, you know? I don't think we need to argue over semantics here. I just think it's the best way to go.
What you're saying is we could throw the Department of Education away and then catch it with a new catcher.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
And then that saves money.
That should save money.
Okay, good.
By the way, we'll mention the tariff thing first, just a real quick thing. We have struck a deal with both Mexico and Canada now.
Oh,
so the China tariffs are still going in. That's something that I think, I'm telling you, Trump and negotiating, all that kind of stuff, now that we had 25% on Mexico, 25% on Canada, and then additional 10% on China, pausing the Mexico and Canada sort of made me forget about the China part, which is where we get a lot of stuff from China.
A lot of stuff.
But the other stuff was like so much tariffs that now we've backed off to okay, it's just China. That's not a big deal. I don't like tariffs that much, but I guess that's not a big deal. But yeah, they paused it. Canada agreed to spend, I believe, $1.3 billion trying to shore up their border. They're also going to designate the Mexican cartels as tourists and stuff like that. Mexico is going to put 10,000 troops on the border. We talked about that yesterday. So right now, sort of seems like the negotiating tactic is paying off. We talked about this for the first 15, 20 minutes in yesterday's episode. If you want to hear our thoughts on the confusing nature of these tariffs, are we doing it because we think tariffs are a good thing for the economy, or are we doing it because we're worried about fentanyl, which is something they had to make up for Trump to have the unilateral authority to be able to do this in the first place, by the way.
Here's the thing I'm most upset about, I got to tell you, is that if we had, a government of transparency, we could listen in on the phone calls.
Yeah.
That would be
good.
fun.
I would like to do that.
It'd be fun to I just wonder how it went.
Just live stream all of them on X. That should be the way you do it.
How are the phone calls? And he's like, Trudeau. Oh, Trudeau. You're an idiot. I'll put it up to 50%, bitch. Make a deal now.
That's probably about what it went like.
I just want to know what it was like.
Okay, so that's the tariff news. I'm sure we're going to have a lot more news to talk
right
about on that.
The way they listen to ours, they listen to our conversations. We can listen to theirs. That'd be fun. It'd be entertaining. Are you not entertained?
I'm not liking this right-handed button.
Are you not entertained?
I am entertained. I mean, good God, this 4 years, as we talked about yesterday, this is going to be nuts, man.
It hasn't even. It's been 3 weeks.
I know. We're just now starting. It's going to be crazy.
Has it been 2 weeks?
There are so many news items that we could talk about every single day that it is overwhelming. And I've heard every podcast that I listen to say the same thing. Like, there are too many things to talk about. And it especially talk about like in depth and detail every single day, because as soon as you start to research one thing, there's some other thing that you have to talk about that comes up after that. And then the same thing for that thing. And so you just have to pick and choose what you're going to talk about.
He's only signed about 483 executive orders since taking office.
Some good, some bad. But from the Daily Wire here and multiple other news organizations, the White House is drafting an executive order to begin dismantling the education department.
All they have to do is just put effort behind Thomas Massey's bill he introduces every year, which is just in Department of Education.
Yeah.
It's the shortest bill in Congress.
The thing is, like, realistically, I'll just say I don't think that's something that Congress would ever go for. I think all they're going to be able to do is on the executive level, just try to render it completely useless and irrelevant at an executive level. I don't really see getting enough votes in Congress to get rid of the Department of Education, especially when you look, like, the list of things that they do has so many little, feel good or feel bad for someone type stories inside of it that you're like, oh, I can't get rid of that. There's no way. It's going to be terrible. People will hate me if I do that.
Dude, Trump has both houses right now. You don't think that he
barely has both houses?
Yeah, but you don't think he can rally the votes?
No, I don't.
Whip him up?
You won't get any Democrats, and you just get a few Republicans that don't want to do it, and it won't pass. So, but we'll see. We'll see if he can push them along. Top Trump officials are reportedly circulating a draft executive order to launch the process of dismantling the Department of Education. The draft order would be a step toward fulfilling a key campaign promise President Donald Trump made to return education policy back to the states.
How about that? Just return it back to the states.
Are you tired of all the winning yet? Let me tell you what. I've probably said this 3 times today, but he so far has met and exceeded my expectations. Like, when I was questioning my libertarian vote for Trump, and I struggled over it quite a lot. I didn't make a decision until 2 weeks before the election that I was going to do it. And I was really influenced by wanting the other people to lose more than I even cared about him winning. Like, that was the bigger thing. Because,
well, you were more influenced by the gaslighting.
Yeah, that's what pushed me, and I wanted them to lose. But because I'm like, okay, he said all these things, he's not going to do them. Politicians say stuff all the time, like, he's not going to do these things. That's a nice way to get people to vote for you and stuff, but who's actually going to do this? And we go.
Here's the thing, Trump's not a politician, so he don't give a flying.
And on top of that, like, he's not going to run for re-election. This is his second term. He's going to be done after this. He's not worried about winning re-election. The only thing he might want to worry about is, can a Republican win in 2028?
He doesn't even care about that.
And he probably doesn't care about that. No. He cares more about his legacy. And that break of 4 years for him, like, losing the 2020 election is going to turn out to be one of the biggest blessings in disguise, I think, for people like us who really just want to see the government demolished.
Because
that's not going to happen. But
he could have continued down the same path, having some deep staters in his cabinet and stuff. And then I think once he saw how they ousted him in 2020, he was like,
yeah,
I really got to do a better job of doing what I said the first time around, which is like getting rid of these people. Of Cool thing about this order here is says the draft order will be a step. I'm sorry. The order would also call on Congress to pass legislation striking the department from federal statute. Well, good news, Trump. Massey already has that legislation drafted up.
It's already there.
We just need to pass it.
Ready to go. And yeah, we should send him. We got a request in here that we need to send Thomas Massey a thank you note signed by the Fed Haters Club. And I think we need to work that up. I think we need to do that.
That'd be great.
Maybe to make it easy, we'll create some kind of DocuSign thing that people can get on there and sign. And we'll send them one, yeah, for sure. This is good. The Department of Education, we know they spent hundreds of billions of dollars during COVID at a time that a lot of schools were closed. But then they also, according to the research I've done, their their yearly budget is like $82 billion. It ballooned up to like $220 billion, during COVID so they could help fix all the schools, for people who had like no risk of dying from COVID whatsoever. But hey, we don't need to talk about that.
Put in air filtration systems,
all that kind of stuff.
Masks.
Yeah, a lot of very important things they did during COVID while kids weren't even allowed to go to school. All the things I've seen that they actually do could be done by the states. Like, that's the biggest thing. And by the way, it says about 60% of the budget traditionally goes towards Pell Grants and federal student loans, facilitating access to higher education for low-income students. Yeah, we should go ahead and get rid of that. That's fine. Let's get rid of that. Title I, $18.6 billion grants. Those are Title I grants to support schools with a high percentage of students from low-income families. This funding helps to close opportunity and achievement gaps. You know what else closes opportunity and achievement gaps? Private schools and charter schools and all that, and just getting out of the public education system.
We haven't even talked about Tennessee's school choice yet.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Which I got to dig into. I don't think it's as school choice as we want it to be. But hey, I think it's a step in the right direction.
The problem with a lot of these school choice bills is, so the incentive for schools would be if someone leaves your school and they want to take that money and go to a private school, charter school, whatever, instead, that you would lose the money that is behind that student and they would take that money and go elsewhere. But what we see a lot of times in these school choice bills is you leave, the school keeps that money, and then the government then uses other money to fund you to go to whatever that school is. Mm-hmm. And that's not good. That's really not the system that we're looking for. It removes the incentive that school needs to compete in that market, and it actually just opens up a bunch more taxpayer money that you could just be taking it from here and spending it here instead, but instead it just gets created like here's a new expenditure. For instance, I have members in my family that go to a private school and they got a letter saying like, oh, you might be eligible for like $7,000. Their kids are already in private school right now. They're already there, but they might just be paying them to go there. The public school in their district is not going to lose any money because of this or anything like that. So, yeah, the incentive system is really getting screwed up in that case. But it's a step in the right direction, I suppose, what Tennessee is doing. But anyway, all the things I see through here should just be done by the states, especially when it comes to setting like curriculum standards and things like that. Like, we don't need people getting paid $80 billion in the federal government to set whatever those standards are. People in the states, even though you don't even have to go just to the state, go down to the locality, do it on the most local level you possibly can. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're just trying to enslave women, though.
Yeah. People think that like this money, if you cut this, who's going to pay the teachers? Like, that gets paid by the state, property taxes goes into the school system and all that.
For most states.
Yeah, for most states. But then they do get these grants if you're in low-income areas from the Department of Education also, which does inevitably go towards some of those teachers. Regardless, that has not helped. They've done a terrible job. They waste a ton of money. And all of these things should be done at the state level, not at the government level. And the fact that this was a campaign promise that it seems to be he's going to try and hold up, even though he can't just decide that there is no more Department of Education. Whatever he can do on the executive level, is a step in the right direction, in my opinion. All right, cool.
There's nothing else for me to say. You took the words right out of my mouth.
You're saying you couldn't have said it better?
I could have said it better, but I allowed you to say what you needed to say. I didn't want to.
First off, let me check in and see what's going on with this RFK confirmation. Right now, we're waiting to see if RFK makes it out of the Finance Committee.
Just the committee.
Just the committee. We're not doing the full vote, but you've got to clear the committee so you can get up to a floor vote, and that is happening right now.
We need is a dilettante.
Let me see.
Dabbling in conspiracy theories.
We're just jumping in live, see what's going on.
At HHS. I cannot vote for a nominee who is not going to lower health care costs for Georgians.
So they get to
going to
just talk again?
Basic science in public health, who puts his own interests above the health and the well-being of others, for the health and well-being of all of our families, the people who count on us, to think about them in these rooms of power. I urge all of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to look.
All right. So that's, who is that? Is that Jamal? No, that's not Jamal Bowman.
I don't know.
I can't remember the guy's name. Why am I thinking Jamal Bowman? Warnock. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Let's get over it. We'll wait. We'll see if we get any news on what happens out of this committee while we're going. But let's move over to the USAID thing. Now, if you want a full comprehensive approach to every single thing that is done terribly by USAID, go look up some Mike Benz videos online. There's plenty of them all over the place. This is not something that we have spent months and months researching and diving into. But I do want to show you some of the reactions. By the way, the Democrats held a protest yesterday. They finally found the thing that they're super against that Trump is doing, that they finally organized and gotten out there so they can speak. And it happens to be that they're trying to shut down USAID.
That's upsetting.
Which is weird. Yeah. They're very upset about this. USAID, from every way that I look at it, from everything I can tell, seems to be a massive money laundering operation / foreign. We interfere in foreign elections. We try to overthrow governments. We try to censor speech in other countries, as well as eventually censoring speech in the United States as well. We sort of created this separate apparatus from the U.S. government that decided it was going to try and control the world.
It also appears to be a slush fund for former...
yeah, we did...
For former people in the government,
like Bill Kristol, getting paid out, and so this is going to affect a lot of people, and most of the people it's going to affect are probably really terrible people that are doing awful things around the globe. Now they also do good things as well, try and fight AIDS in Africa, trying to feed some people, stuff like that. But that's actually a pretty small portion of their budget. The rest of their budget is just trying to affect whatever change it is they want to affect in different countries around the globe. Now, there was a story of them creating like a social media app, and I believe it was like, was it Cuba or somewhere down south has created a social media app, and once they had people on there, they started trying to push them to overthrow their government, and I don't think the U.S. needs to be involved in things like that. Even if you make the argument that there are bad people around the globe, and wouldn't it be better if some of these governments were overthrown and all that? I don't think taxpayer money needs to be going to this. I think that instead of making us safer, it actually makes more people around the globe hate us. It makes, the governments and the people around the globe end up hating us. And like people in the group are saying, this does seem to be like this is a slush fund or playtime money for the CIA. It's like they're the same thing, really. Like it's like the PR firm for everything that we say and know the CIA does. I'll admit, I did not realize it seems to actually happen through USAID.
Yeah.
Like they're like, we want to do this thing. Okay. So we'll call USAID, and then they're going to implement all this thing that we want to do. They seem to be pretty closely aligned and entangled on everything.
It also appears that USAID funneled money to the Wuhan lab, basically.
That also, yes.
So it was another route in which they gave money to cause a pandemic, which, by the way, directly affected your lives. People, you have to remember the funding of COVID. I think obviously the virus killed 1 million Americans. That's
Clark
bad.
says they did that after the pandemic. They sent money there.
That's
so
bad.
We'll have to look into that.
But regardless, think about the other thing was that it's bad that 1 million people died. But look at the economic situation that millions of Americans are in now because of the pandemic.
Lives are changed.
Like completely.
But we have a story up here.
Inflation has gone insane. People are living paycheck to paycheck. Credit card debt's at an all-time high. We're on the verge, and it could happen during Trump's presidency. I mean, we're on the verge of a bubble popping here.
Yeah, we definitely are.
It's not going to be good.
Speaking
for
of
a lot of people.
Like, people's lives changed, but I've had the story up here, and we just haven't had time to talk about it. This is a super important story from the Washington Post called Students Aren't Recovering from COVID. Test scores are getting worse. So there's this thought that we're going to have a couple bad years maybe, and then things were just going to continue back on the same path. It's not actually happening. What we're finding is that people losing a couple years of very vital learning in that learning process, especially younger people who are like building their brains, at that time, that they are probably going to be set back potentially for life because they lost that couple years of that very important time when your brain is developing and going through that learning process. I don't know if we're going to get those people back on track, or if we're just going to have kind of a less educated generation come out of COVID. So yeah, just something like funding COVID. You've clearly, it goes without saying, have completely changed the world after that, probably because you funded something that leaked from a lab and not only killed a bunch of people, but then changed the lives of everyone else who didn't die. So let's look a little bit at the protest. Here's a protest.
Again, think about the symptoms of these problems. We've been talking about government fraud and overreach and power and things like that because of what it could lead to. Well, this is like proof. This is proof that government fraud and waste of your stolen money. So that's the root of the problem. They stole money from you, which is not moral. And
that's
it
like
leads
where
to
you've solved the problem.
It leads
the theft.
it leads to anti-moral things. And then it directly affects your life. People are upset about egg prices. Okay? Well, it's a direct result of fraud from USAID.
Yeah.
There you go. I've linked it.
You linked it. There it is.
Right there.
It's linked. Egg prices, USAID.
Exactly.
Completely linked together. Here's a little bit of protest.
Frozen until a waiver was thrown together after the fact. Let me say that again. Prisoner guards overseeing thousands of ISIS combatants walked off the job. This is real life. This is street. Further, I'm urging my fellow Democrats to use every legislative tool we have at our disposal to slow down and stop this crime from...
Okay, this is a crime, first off. I always love... We'll talk about this a couple times maybe, but I always love that...
Maybe we should go to D.C. sometime. I just want to walk up to these people and be like, why?
U.S. government. Musk and his band of unelected acolytes at Doge have locked out USAID employees from their offices, improperly accessed highly classified information, purged the agency of its nonpartisan leadership, and thrown the agency into chaos through a concerted campaign of harassment and intimidation of its employees. This is on top of Trump's freeze of crucial foreign assistance programs.
I love how the first thing they mention is the unelected Elon Musk coming in to shut down this agency
that's unelected.
Of unelected people that are spending your money, most of which no one knows what it's actually going towards. Probably not a lot of good stuff. Very small portions of it going to things that people would agree with.
Some of it's going in this guy's pocket.
Yeah.
I can tell you that.
I mean, this seems like
by sheer fact that he's standing at that podium.
Like they haven't gotten together any protests really for anything else but USAID. The fact that Musk is able to access their systems and see what they've been doing. I'm kind of questioning what they're going to find out in there and whether or not there's a lot of people people that are super worried about this, you know? This is probably something that no one really game planned happening. And I didn't either. Like the way that they've come in and just accessed the systems and looked in like the Treasury and all that, you know, maybe we should be more worried about that kind of stuff. I don't know.
What about accessing that?
Our institutions?
Why?
Our institutions, Charlie.
Why should we be worried about that?
You know, our republic and our structure, our government structure. You know, it's very important.
You're saying we shouldn't have transparency?
we should, but not to an unelected billionaire.
What are they so afraid of? What are you so afraid
I believe.
of?
What's Elizabeth Warren saying about RFK right now?
And enrich his family.
Are you being lied to? They tell you to max out your 401k and IRA and then make you beg for permission to use your own money. It's time to get the truth and discover a better way to grow and protect your money. Bank on Yourself is the proven retirement plan alternative banks and Wall Street desperately hope you never hear about. It gives you guaranteed predictable growth and retirement income. If your plan doesn't go backward when the markets tumble, your principal and growth are locked in. Tax-free retirement income. You'll know your tax rate. In retirement, 0 under current tax law, which protects you from the coming tax tsunami. You get access to your money for emergencies and opportunities. There are no government penalties or restrictions on how much or when you can take it and when you use your money. It keeps growing like you never touched it. You get built-in inflation protection. Your money's guaranteed to grow by a larger dollar amount every year in both good times and bad. Peace of mind. You'll know the minimum guaranteed value of your retirement savings on the day you plan to tap into them and at every point along the way. You can get a free report that reveals how you can bank on yourself and enjoy tax-free retirement income, guaranteed growth, and control of your money. Just go to bankonyourself.com/GML and get your free report. That's bankonyourself.com/GML, bankonyourself.com/GML.
The importance of this litigation cannot be overstated. This is not only about a private company that gets sued and has to
She
pay
always
out.
sounds like she's doing an infomercial to me, like late at night. I feel like she's on QVC or something. She's like, for 4 payments of $19.95, you'll not only get this one thing, but you'll get this second piece as well.
Pipes.
And if you call in the next hour, you're going to get free shipping on that.
On your TP.
Too. And actually, in addition to that, we're going to throw in a third item. And we're going to knock it down to only 3 easy payments of 19. That's what she sounds like all the time. Just keep that in your head.
Vaccine
Here's a question I
manufacturers-
have, though. Why is it the Health and Human Services Secretary in front of the Finance Committee? Wouldn't it be the Health Committee to start off with? Or did he already make it
Does
out
anyone
of
have...
How many committees has he gone through so far?
Does anyone have any good answers on why it's the Finance Committee that he's in front of? Did he advance? Fat Max says RFK advances. Is that a prediction or is that a news item? News. Okay. All right,
Often
just checking. Well, I felt like I was live here, but... Oh, no, they're done.
A destroyer. And there's 3 issues.
Okay. Anyhow, sorry, we'll get back to what it was we were talking about. Okay, so there's a protest. People are super worried about that. Been some good posts about USAID. And, we've gone through some of these instances of government waste, like in Afghanistan and places like that. It turns out USAID was behind a whole lot of that stuff, the things that we made fun of. And that page Maze posted out a few good items. Let's see. Kabul's winter blanket. The power plant was commissioned in 2007 as a backup generator for the capital in case electricity supply from Uzbekistan was compromised. Vast modern structure, it ran on diesel-fueled turbines supplied by brand-name engineering giant. There was one catch. Afghanistan has scant diesel supply of its own and had to ship the fuel by truck, making the plant too expensive to run. The facility itself cost $335 million to build and had an estimated annual fuel cost of $245 million. The most recent SIGAR assessment, at best, was used at just 2.2% capacity, as the Afghan government cannot afford the fuel. USAID declined to comment.
Oh, they declined to comment.
Yeah. $249 million for an incomplete road. An extensive ring road around Afghanistan was funded by multiple grants and donors totaling billions during the course of the war. Towards the end of the project, 233-kilometer section in the north between these two towns led to $249 million being handed out to contractors, but only 15% of the road being built. Between March 2014 and September 2017, there was no construction on this section, and what had been built deteriorated. The report concluded. USAID declined to comment.
We're in the wrong job, man.
Yeah. Listen, guys, this is a money laundering operation.
Oh, yeah.
They come up with this project that they know no one needs, and then they say we're going to spend this much money on it, and then they get the right people in place to accept this money. No one ever cares if the thing gets built or used. It's about the payment process. It's about getting that money into the country, into the hands that you want it to be in.
And make it
That's
look
all it is.
Legit.
It looks like you're doing some kind of humanitarian thing, trying to rebuild the country or whatever. It doesn't matter if this stuff ever happens. What matters is that you took the money and you paid it to the people that you wanted the money to go to.
Yeah.
And you never have to complete the job.
$240 million probably out of that $249 million went into the hands of friends.
Probably.
It's like the Clinton Foundation when they took all that money to rebuild homes in Haiti and they built 4 homes. So
the healthcare facility in the sea 2015 report into USAID's funding of healthcare facilities in Afghanistan said that over a third of the 510 projects they've been given coordinates for did not exist in those locations. 13 were not located in Afghanistan, with 1 located in the Mediterranean Sea. 30 were located in the province different from the one USAID reported. And 189 showed no physical structure within 400 feet of the reported coordinates. Just under half of these locations showed no physical structure within a half mile of the reported coordinates. The audit said USAID and the Afghan Ministry of Public Health could only provide oversight of these facilities if they know where they are. USAID declined to comment.
Interesting.
Pie in the sky projects, as one USAID worker called them, were routinely launched without any thought to the financial and technological ability of the Afghans to maintain them. Turned out the Afghans couldn't afford most of them, so even the best programs could end up becoming waste. None of the programs were required to prove they had even limited success. Officials tracked dollars spent, not the impact. For instance, no one evaluated whether Afghan security forces actually learned to read and write after going through a $200 million literacy program. You do the $200 million literacy program, and then you never test and give any documentation on whether or not anyone became literate as a result of the program. You just make sure that you pay out the money. It's keen money laundering. That's all it is. That's what this money is for, and that's what USAID is used for. We'll point to the stuff like, combating AIDS in Africa and stuff like that, and most people don't want a bunch of people in Africa to die from preventable diseases and stuff. You know what? Why don't we spin those specific programs off and have Congress vote on them and see if we want to spend whatever the $million-something it is to combat AIDS in Africa? Why don't we have a vote in Congress on whether or not we want to do that? We don't have to make sure the CIA slush fund is the one that is fighting. They do this specifically, one, to get an in into the country, under the guise of helping with healthcare and stuff like that. But also they do it so when you attack USAID, they say, whoa, look at all the things we're doing. Look at these things. It's like 2% of the money we spend, but look at the good things. You guys don't want to be associated with posts on the internet about people dying from AIDS, and so therefore you must allow us to overthrow governments all over the world. So anyhow, that's that kind of stuff. Some of USAID's investment, this is from Autism Capital, $1.5 million to advance DEI inclusion in Serbian workplaces. That's something as a taxpayer I'm super worried about. $70,000 for a DEI musical in Ireland. I bet it sucked. $2.5 million for electric vehicles in Vietnam. $47K for a transgender opera in Colombia.
I bet that was riveting.
Oh, it was so good, I bet. $32K for a transgender comic book in Peru. That's a pretty good deal for commissioning the comic book, honestly. It's probably not that bad. This is a pretty good deal. $2 million for sex changes in LGBT activism in Guatemala. $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt. says fine
I
tourism.
mean, that's
of it.
all important.
Hundreds of thousands for nonprofit linked to designated terrorist organizations. You want to take it. You want to look the other way on that one for sure. Okay, millions to Eco Health Alliance. Interesting. Hundreds of thousands to meals for Al Qaeda. I mean, to be fair, we started them. It's our job to make sure they stay fed.
I saw one report that basically the food aid to Syria went to Syrian terrorists, about $10 million. So
yeah. Let me see.
My favorite, though, hundreds of millions for farming equipment used to support poppy cultivation for the Taliban. So,
oh man,
yeah. Where do you think you get that heroin from?
Yeah,
baby, the U.S. government.
There's a man. What's that Netflix movie? War Machine. It's got Brad Pitt in it on Netflix. One of the funniest scenes about growing poppy in Afghanistan. He's like, "Why don't we do?" He shows up and he's like, "Why don't we grow wheat or something?" He's like, "Can we grow anything else other than poppy?" He's like, the guy's like, "Yeah, wheat would grow really well here. That'd be fine, but U.S. taxpayers don't want to support something that would go onto a global market and compete with, U.S. farmers on that global market." He's like, "Oh," and the guy goes, "So we're growing heroin instead." And that's just a really, really funny scene.
Yeah.
Anyhow, let's see what else we got here. Oh, by the way, USAID was heavily involved in the 2014 coup in Ukraine. That's important. Also, the Rose Revolution in Georgia in 2003. Let's see. In Serbia in 2000, USAID's funding for opposition groups and independent media was instrumental in the bulldozer revolution, which ended Slobodan Milosevic's presidency. I really hated that guy, and I'm glad that my money was used to get rid of that guy in
back
Serbia.
In 2000,
I was super worried about
upset.
that, for sure. Anyhow, we don't need to be doing this. There are people who think that it's better for the United States to have some control over everywhere in the world. I'm telling you, first off, you can't trust the people in the government to be doing it for the right reason. Second, they don't need to be stealing your money to do this. That honestly should be in the first place because taxation is theft. But also, they're just creating a bunch of hatred for you around the world, and it's the government, so they suck at everything that they do in the first place, and they probably don't get the desired outcomes from the things they do anyway. If you want revolutions to happen in other countries and stuff like that, those people need to decide that they are going to rise up against their governments. If their governments are truly bad, none of these revolutions are real unless those people have a change in their hearts and they decide that it's important enough for them to rise up and change their government and rewrite it in Thomas Jefferson's image afterwards. It's important for them to decide to do that, not for us to go in and try and create these situations in these other countries. It just creates a lot of hatred and animosity for the U.S. around the world, and that actually makes us less safe, in my humble opinion. Now, back to reality right fast. I do want to mention this before we get out of here. This is the government, and although we are giving Trump and Musk a lot of attaboys and stuff these days, we do have to look at what's probably actually going to happen. What's actually happened is USAID has been rolled up under the State Department. It's not officially just gone. They haven't said we cancel everything. The whole agency's gone. We're done doing all this stuff. They've essentially taken it, rolled it up under the State Department. Marco Rubio is in charge of it. Now,
well, real quick though,
yeah.
Do we know what the State Department was involved in? According to Keys on Joe Rogan, like Randy Keys, right?
Who?
The guy who basically exposed all of the funding from the government on censorship.
Mike Benz?
Mike Benz. Why Randy Keys?
He goes by Randy Keys when he goes down south, I think.
Mike Benz.
Really close. Really close
Yeah.
there.
So the State Department,
I call him Randy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I call him.
It's his stage name.
Yeah.
Actually, Randy's his real name. He goes by Mike Benz.
Randy was my tour manager name when I was on tour. When I would switch into tour manager mode, they called me Randy Dean because I put on my hat and everyone just called me Randy. So anyhow. But yeah, when the Randy Keys episode on Joe Rogan was instrumental, I think. It might have actually been instrumental in getting Elon Musk to pay attention to this as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And it brought my attention to it. This stuff is complicated. I don't have time to comb through all these freaking documents and reports and also try to trust them at the same time, decide they're real and pick and choose, go back into history and look at what they did in Serbia in the year 2000 and whether or not I think it was a good idea. So yeah, he's brought a lot of light on this, but here's what Marco Rubio has to say.
You're now the head of USAID. The head of Doge, Elon Musk, called USAID a criminal organization and added that it is time for it to die. Do you agree with that?
They have basically evolved into an agency that believes that they're not even a U.S. government agency, that they are a global charity, that they take the taxpayer money and they spend it as a global charity, irrespective of whether it is in the national interest or not in the national interest. One of the most common complaints you will get if you go to embassies around the world from State Department officials and ambassadors and the like is USAID is not only not cooperative, they undermine the work that we're doing in that country. They are supporting programs that upset the host government for whom we're trying to work with on a broader scale and so forth. So they're completely unresponsive. They just don't consider that they work for the U.S. They just think they're a global entity and that their master is the globe and not the United States. And that's not what the statute says, and that's not sustainable.
Can it be reformed or does it need to die?
Well, that was always the goal, was to reform it. But now we have rank insubordination. Now we have basically an active effort where their basic attitude is we don't work for anyone. We work for ourselves. No agency of government can tell us what to do. So the president made me the acting administrator. I've delegated that power to someone who's there full time, and we're going to go through the same process at USAID as we're going through now at the State Department. I think there are this is not about getting rid of foreign aid. There are things that we do through USAID that we should continue to do that makes sense. And we'll have to decide, is that better through the State Department or is that better through something, a reformed USAID? That's the process we're working through. There are things that are happening at USAID that we should not be involved in funding or that we have a lot of questions about. But they're completely uncooperative. So we had no choice but to take dramatic steps to bring this thing under control.
My worry here...
it's such a political answer.
Yeah. My worry here is that...
no, we got to look at it.
It was way cooler, in my opinion, when Elon Musk was going to walk in, steal the keys to the building, and then burn it on live on X, burn it down then. That was way cooler to me. And that might be... oligarchy or what, I don't know what you guys want to call it, but drastic times call for drastic measures in my opinion right now. I'm a little worried that someone
measures are, well, you're going to look at it.
Yeah.
And say, look at this.
Yeah, we like some of the stuff they're doing. What I'm worried they're going to do is retool USAID to work for whatever their vision of what the U.S. should be doing instead of whatever the Democrats' globalist vision was. They're going to instead use all of the tools and resources that they have through USAID to try and affect the changes that they want to change in all of these countries. And that's not near as cool as demolishing the building live on TV.
And
so
I think you have to worry about Marco Rubio.
Yeah.
This guy might figure out a way to... this guy overwhelmingly got confirmed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, given the keys to this guy, he might protect some of his colleagues, because they probably have dirt on him.
He is the most worrying person, although I did hear an interview we did with Megyn Kelly. He's got a lot better answers on our foreign policy and the position that the U.S. needs to be in the world than he used to have on things. And I don't know if that's just because he wants to stay on Trump's good side, so he's saying what he needs to say to people, or if he's actually gone through some sort of change in the last couple of years. I don't know. Which one is the most likely? Most likely is he's being a politician. That's the most likely
I do think
scenario.
he was voted in during the Tea Party movement, wasn't he?
That sounds correct.
So I think originally he was, Tea Party.
Yeah. I'm going to play, before we get out of here, I'm going to play this 32-second clip from Bernie Sanders, which will be on Dumb Bleep of the Week. And this sort of encapsulates the left critique of what's happening right now with Doge and Trump. And, we didn't get to the Treasury thing today, and we barely scratched the surface on USAID, all that. But the way that Bernie describes this is sort of going to be the talking point and the feeling that you're going to be getting from the left, the Democrats, all those people going forward. And this is sort of the thing I want to make fun of before we leave.
Margaret, we are living in an unprecedented moment in American history. We're looking at a rapid growth of oligarchy. We're looking at a rapid growth of authoritarianism. And I fear that we're looking at a rapid growth of kleptocracy as well. And I'm going to do everything I can to work with my supporters all over this country to stand up and fight back, to make sure we have an economy that works for everybody, not just Elon Musk, and that we maintain American democracy.
No.
So 3 words he used there: oligarchy, which has become their favorite word to use, and which basically is only because Elon Musk is a billionaire. Like if they found some other super smart person, and we're like, oh, you're going to run Doge, and that's going to be cool, like just some guy off the street that's got no net worth or whatever, I don't know if they would really care as much. They really hate him because he's a billionaire. Oligarchy, authoritarianism. We have a rapid growth in authoritarianism right now, and kleptocracy, which is like the government essentially plundering resources from the people to give to themselves. And all of that is on the back of people trying to dismantle portions of the government that are literally stealing your money
and giving it to themselves.
And giving it to other people and themselves. And so when you go after an organization that is quite literally laundering money on behalf of themselves and their friends, laundering stolen money from the taxpayers, if you go in and you use drastic measures, maybe even potentially unconstitutional measures to go in and say this has to be stopped, then you are an authoritarian kleptocrat, as Biden would call it, because you're trying to stop the theft.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow
this is gaslighting 101.
And every one of these things that they cut, we're not going to go into the other tweets I pulled. Everything they try to cut, they're saying, well, they're only doing this so Trump can do tax cuts for his rich friends. That's why they're cutting this department. That's why they're firing these people, because Trump wants to give more handouts to the wealthy. And so that's the kleptocracy that we have right now. I don't know if you remember that clip of Biden trying to say kleptocracy, but it was really good. That's the kleptocracy, is where you're cutting out the spending of taxpayer money in order to also steal less money from other people in the economy and overall spend less money in the government. And that is our kleptocracy.
That's kleptopanopolis if I've ever heard of it.
That is our authoritarian dictatorship that these people are worried about. And they will frame it that way. The more you decrease the size of the government. Listen, when Javier Milei came in, he had to come in and use a lot of executive power, because these people that are benefiting from all of this stuff are not going to work with you on getting rid of these things.
Of course they won't.
They don't want to do that.
No.
Like, oh, it's got to go through Congress. At this point, you kind of say, well, Congress is sort of compromised. They're sort of corrupted at this time.
Sort of.
They're
they
not going
are.
to vote for this.
It's not sort of.
They're going to keep voting to steal your money and give it away to their friends and themselves. And so any time that someone comes in and says, we're going to have to cut that, we're not going to spend it, literally going to refuse to spend this money that you stole from other people, that is authoritarianism to them. That is theft.
Well, you're
not spending stolen money is theft.
You're taking candy from the babies, and the babies are going to cry about it.
Yeah,
and that's what's happening. By the way, I know you posted this on X, but hot damn, Trump in a couple weeks might be the most libertarian president we've ever seen in just a couple weeks. Now, doesn't mean he's not going to do some stupid stuff coming up over the next. We got 4 years.
Doesn't mean we haven't disagreed with him on several things. Also, we don't like the tariffs, that actual implemented tariffs. We don't like that. He's wanting to send 30,000 migrants down the Guantanamo Bay. That we didn't get to talk about that either. He's talked about censoring speech, essentially deporting people who are protesting against Israel that are here legally on visas. Technically, we disagree with that. But right now, the benefits are outweighing the negatives.
At the very least, we're getting corruption exposed.
We are,
and it's I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I really hope things turn around. What I find the weirdest thing though is, like, you have these people, and I honestly think they're probably bots. Like, they're like tax-paying people, and they're upset. Like, they're following this Democrat line. I think because they live in media silos, and they're upset, that this kind of thing is happening. That Elon Musk is exposing this. And I'm like, how are you not upset that you look at your paycheck, and then there's a line for stolen money that you could have. For most people, it's, $100, $400, $500 a paycheck. You could buy eggs with that if that wasn't being taken out of your paycheck. And then they're turning around and then using that money to line the pockets of their friends like Billy Crystal and other folks out there that are doing nothing. They're pretending to build gas stations. They're pretending to build roads. They're pretending to build hospitals. And they're doing none of the sort. They're just putting the money in their pocket. And you're not more upset about that? How are you not more upset about that? And where are the fucking journalists at? Right? How are they not enraged?
Oh, they're worried about the money they're not going to be getting from these organizations too.
What is happening?
Yeah.
But I do think that the majority of Americans are enraged. And I see that as evidenced by the fact that Donald Trump won the popular vote, which is weird.
That is weird.
That Trump won the popular vote. Now, albeit it was only by like 2 million, but still.
He did it.
He won the popular vote. He got over 300 electoral votes, which I think that's more than he got the first time around. And so I think more people, I'm optimistic, even though I see a few scragglers out there that are upset about this exposition. I think there are more people that are upset about the fact that your money is being stolen from you and then lining the pockets of friends and family.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a good thing.
We could be on the verge of something actually good happening. Yeah. I'm not, not going to hold out hope for anything, but it is
Are
actually
you pessimistically optimistic?
Yes. I am.
Exactly.
I'm exactly that, pessimistically optimistic.
All right, y'all. Well, if you enjoyed today's episode, please share the show with a friend, a family member, or a foe. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Go to GodHatesFeds.com to be part of the Fed Haters Club, or join gmail.com. That's another place you can go. Visit the links in the show notes to support the sponsors that support this show. And if you do all of that, then we'll be back again tomorrow. Hope you have a good day and a good morning, Liberty.